All right, so we have got a cello in here today. Now this is not, I got this all hooked up into my Total Vice system, and this is a cello that's got a neck issue. Now this is not, like, it does happen in cellos. It's much more common in my area. I'm in a very dry desert, and we, tend to have a lot of, very dry climates and that type of stuff. And so we have a problem of the neck is warped. So the neck has bowed back. And partially what's going on is we have two different materials in this neck. We have maple and we have ebony. Well, so as it dries out in our really dry climate, the maple shrinks more than the ebony. Now, it doesn't shrink a lot because the grain direction, it shouldn't, but it still does just slightly. And so we get this bow back. Now, there's several different ways of handling this. Some places will just literally plane the board, take that hump out, not worry about the warp, and go on from there. Now, that is possible with some. This board is already getting a little thin. I don't know if someone's already done that. This board just came thin. So I don't really want to do that. And so on this one, I think what we're going to do is actually heat treat the neck. The other thing you can do, you could pop this board off, let that neck relax back forward, and glue it to a flat plate and see if that'll work. Now, what I'm going to do is kind of the same thing. I'm going to actually just put a heat blanket on this with a jig where I can control how much angle I put on this and be able to warm this up. The joint may slip a little as I warm this up, but it's also, we're just going to heat treat the neck. We're going to stabilize this, make this a little bit harder, which heat treating does. Now, I don't suggest doing this on all instruments, but on a more inexpensive instrument that they don't put a lot of money into, this is a great option to get you through that problem and back into a playing instrument without too much hassle. And this has worked pretty reasonably for me. Do I have the occasion where it warps back? Yes, but for a more cost-effective type repair, I think it works great. Anyway, let's get this hooked up and let's show you guys how this goes. Okay, now on this, we're going to take and loosen these strings up, and I'm going to use, this is the heat blanket I'm going to use. So this is just a thermal rubber blanket used commonly for removing guitar fretboards. Excuse me one second, I'm going to drop the bridge and get that out of the way. Set that there for just 1 second. I'm actually going to get this removed. Should have left a little bigger gap on this end deal so I get that easier. And now I have just the neck exposed. And I'm going to rotate this around and get closer to you guys. Take this, and I'm going to adjust the camera angle so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to lay it on there and use the jig and put that all on there. And we're going to start warming this thing up. Now I got to look because I think I might have a narrow one. Okay, so we're going to wrap a little bit of paper towel on there. We're going to take just a little bit of water and just spray on the front, and this is going to cause just a little bit of steam and also give us a little bit of working time. Because the amount of heat we're going to put on this, if you let it go too long, I don't want to scorch the wood. I just want to warm it up throughout the wood. So we're not going to set it too high and let it go for a while. Okay, now we're going to change things a little bit to get you a little better view. We're going to take a little bit of aluminum foil. And I'm going to put the heat blanket on here, and I did find the shorter one that I wanted. And I simply just use this to, one, hold the blanket in place, and two, to kind of keep that heat in around the neck. We're just going to make kind of a little heat jacket. And nothing crazy, just, 2.5 times around, something like that. Nothing crazy. This doesn't have to be super critical because we are going to go kind of low and slow on this. I don't want to hit this too quickly. Next, we're going to set our jig on there, which is this guy. And this is one. Make sure I'm not pinching that cord. So I have cut this so that these 3 points, there's 3 points there, that everything is level. Now I do this just a little bit different now that I have the workstation, because now I actually just clamp right through the workstation rather than having, just clamping onto the cello itself. Okay, that looks pretty good. That wire's clear. That's around there. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to I'm going to put another clamp right here to hold this end. I actually might take all the way around the total vise. So let me do that real quick and I will get right back with you. All right, this isn't the normal clamp I would be using for this, but it will do the job until I find my other one of these. But it will hold it for today. Now I'm actually going to take a couple wedges and go into here and actually start putting some force down onto this, and we're actually going to warp this down using this to push against. Okay, so all these are just a simple little piece of 2x4, just kind of cut into a very slight wedge, and I'm going to put in one in through this side, just kind of finger tight right now, and one in through the other side, like so. And now we'll actually start getting this warmed up. So that's just going to kind of put a little pressure, and as I get this warmer and it sits for a while, then I'll actually just come over and either just push these in further, or sometimes you just tap them in just a little bit, and we'll actually start pushing that neck into a back bow, well, into a front bow, anyway. So we'll start leveling it back out and go just a little further than flat, and then we will go from there. So let's start warming this up. And I use the old LMI heat control unit for this. I actually just stuck a little clamp on it onto the workstation so it's not going to go anywhere, and then I can watch this all together. So I'm going to set this down to, well, we're going to set it to 215. So that's just about to where it'll just start to make steam. Not too hot, and definitely won't touch this finish. This is a polyurethane finish, so I shouldn't have to worry about that at that temperature. So now we can see this is here's a little thermometer probe I stuck in underneath that blanket, and I'm just going to turn that on. And this will automatically, you can see that just started jumping. So this is going to tell me the temperature the blanket is, and when it gets to this temperature, it'll shut it off. So I'm going to let this sit for probably 15, 20 minutes like this, keep an eye on it, and I'll get back with you then. Okay, so this has gone for about 10 minutes. I set the timer for 10. So I'm going to take and just push that in a little bit, push this side in just a little bit. And now I'm going to let that go. Oh, see, that loosened that up. So something like that. And now we're going to take this and we'll give it another 10 minutes and I'll come check in on it again. Okay, so see the timer's gone off. This is actually cycled through a couple times like this, where I just about every 10 minutes come over and just give this a little scoot in, make sure everything stays in place. And now we're starting to look pretty good. So what I'm looking at is I want this neck to be in just a slight front bow, because when I let this all cool down and take this clamp off, the neck will actually relax back. So I want it to come back to flat. So we got to overbend it just a little bit and not too much. And this is actually looking really good. So I'm going to let this sit for another 10 minutes and then shut everything down and let this cool down. We'll unwrap it and have a look. Okay, I let this sit another 10 minutes and I just shut off the blanket, and you can, whoops, move this down. So you can see that this is just starting to drop. And so I can watch this and just see when this gets down to cool, and I'll unclamp this and let's have a look. All right, so this is definitely cool enough. We can take this apart now. Set that out of the way. Pull those out. Okay. Okay. That's still warm to the touch, but that's it. I'm just going to take a look. All right. Now, it does. I forgot to video. I looked back in footage and saw that I didn't look at this. I put the straight edge in here before, but I didn't hit record. I still have a little bit of back bow, but not quite as much, and so I'm going to call that a win. And I will just plane a little bit more of this, and there's enough now that I can just plane about a 1/2 millimeter down here, get the relief back in this, and we're going to call this good. So this was going to be kind of a bit of a combo. I'm going to plane a little bit, but not near as, a quarter as much as I was going to have to before. So that was kind of worthy of doing that, and then I'll clean the neck all back up and get this ready to go. So now we're going to start cleaning the board. And I'm not having to take much. And I just go through and I kind of plane all the way across the board a little bit. And then go back through the other direction. I'm going to come in with the gauge and make sure I'm not getting anything too crazy. Everything looks pretty good. Got to go just a little bit more right here. Keep that curve. Now, in some comments I got on one of my videos, they were saying, a gentleman got in there was making a comment and asked, why, or that I should be using a radius block, which to be honest, I'd never even thought of. It's a good idea, and so I will probably be making one of those. The way I was taught was I had never used them. You always just made sure you got the gauge, made sure that it was the right here, and I got to take just another swipe there. I'm getting a little bit of a flat spot right there in the middle. But a radius block does make a good idea. Okay, now we're going to take a straight edge. And we're going to see how we're looking. We are dead flat now. And so now I need to put just a little bit of relief in it. And you can see this is a striped board. I've got a little light color here, a little black here. And it also has some sort of a figurine in it, and they might have used a little bit of fill right there. Whether that was just a blowout or kind of a knot or something, I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of work in this general middle area so I get that hump back, or relief. I'm taking out that. I'll get there eventually. Something like that. Let's check, make sure that still looks good. Check my straight edge. What we've got. A little bit more. I have just the slightest bit of relief. So now I'm actually going to take my plane and actually twist it. So what this does is it makes the foot of the plane shorter. It also gives me a skew cut. So the shavings get a little bit smoother, but also I've got it with the grain changes direction right there, so it's kind of a rough plane. So what it does is it tends to cut a little bit deeper if we skew that plane a little bit. I'm just going to slide it down there. And so what I'm trying to do is just take a little bit more out of the center and get this nice even relief across there. So now I got to take a little bit right here. And see here, now, see, I quit using, the plane won't work. So that means I have some relief. Yes, I do. And we are looking pretty good. I like that. Okay. We can only do just a little bit more kind of right in here. Okay. Check with the gauge. Ooh, that looks good. I like that. Like that. Got one little just right here next to that. I don't know where this thing is. It must. I think this is a little bit harder. It's kind of a knot or something. Like I said, this wasn't a real expensive cello, so it's not that uncommon to see something like that in there. There, took care of it. Okay, so that looks good all the way down. So now we can take and start sanding this out. And this is where that other idea, and I definitely will probably make some radius blocks. So then you could just stick a radius block on there and just already have that curvature just set. And you really refine down that curvature. But the way my teacher taught me is actually just use flat blocks. So let's do that. Okay, so at this point we got everything smoothed back up. I put the nut back on. I forgot to video that. That's okay. And we're going to string this up and see what she does. So we got the tail piece back on. So now we got this done. I got this all tuned back up. Now it can be played without rattling on the board. So this is, so like I said, so this is just kind of a good way to not have to plane as much out of the board as you would normally have to. You can also do a step where you pull the board and, you know, like basically redo this glue joint, flatten the board off with heat treatment or whatever, and then glue everything back flat, and then we'll go. But I like this heat treatment because it tends to go pretty quickly, and it helps straighten that out, and probably maybe even bake that make it a little bit stiffer. So anyway, I do a lot around here because we're in the desert, in the high desert. You know, we get humidities down to as much as like 6%. So we have a lot of problems with like things moving around and things just not staying the way they should. Anyway, hope this was kind of a little informative. This is just one thing that I do. I'm going to keep doing these videos now and showing clips of these into Instagram and Facebook. I just kind of want to show this. I think that's how the direction I more want to go. Do a little longer format and just do little clips into the others. Anyway, so we'll see you guys on the next one.